Dear learners of Standard 10, it's a very good morning and welcome back to my BGS Geography class. Previous day, I had discussed about the militancy and violence towards women. Today, I am going to discuss on what follow. You are observing some children there. Dear learners, today's children are the prospective generation of the future, and those who are now children will have to take the responsibility of running the state. For a better future, the whole world has concentrated on their physical and mental health, thoughtfulness, creativity, and above all, on developing their entire potentiality. But nowadays, we are observing the children in their minimum age, they are involved in different sectors for food. So today I am going to discuss about the child labor of Bangladesh. So, like many countries of South Asia, child labor persists in Bangladesh also. So first of all, we will know who are called the children. So anyone below the age of 18 will be considered a child, but some countries follow their own law and maintain age limit below 18. And the life of children is dependent on the elders in many respects. And they have, as these children have no income of their own, as they are children, they are physically weak, and on the same ground they have little knowledge, but because of it they cannot be deprived of their rights, so we should not force anything on them. Children must enjoy their freedom. But like our country, most of the developing countries are not follow the rights of the children. But these children can claim some rights from the society and the state. So now you will know about the child labor. So child labor refers to the exploitation of children through any form of work that deprives children of their childhood, interferes with their ability to attend regular school, and is mentally, physically, socially, and morally harmful. So in this minute age, the child must go to school, but rather than they are involved themselves in different types of works. Child labor accounts for 22% of the workforce in Asia, 32% in Africa, 17% in Latin America, and 1% in the USA, Canada, Europe, and other wealthy nations. So follow according to this percentage, the developed country, in this developed country, child labor is forbidden. The proportion of child laborers varies greatly among countries and even regions inside those countries. Africa has the highest percentage of children aged 5 to 17 employed as child labor, and a total of over 65 million. Whereas in Asia, with its larger population, has the largest number of children employed as child labor at about 114 million. Dear learners, a child has to work for his livelihood when the child is supposed to go to school for study or play with friends. But for the poor economic condition, like the developing countries. So poor economic condition is the first and foremost reason for child labor in our country. In the world's poorest countries, that means the countries which have the low economic sector, around 1 in 4 children are engaged in child labor. Worldwide, agriculture is the largest employer of child labor. The vast majority of child labor is found in rural settings and informal urban economies. Children are predominantly employed by their parents sometimes parents force their children to do the work rather than factories. Poverty and lack of schools are considered the primary cause of child labor. So first is the poverty. So poor economic condition is the first and foremost reasons for child labor in country. It is not possible for the parents of a poor family. Here children are predominantly employed by their parents. So it is not possible for the parents of a poor family to bear the cost of their children's education after arranging their food. As a result, sometimes we see the guardians of these children lost interest of sending their children to a school. They want to send their children in workplace. How many children are involved in child labor in Bangladesh? Child labor in Bangladesh is common, with 4.7 million children aged 5 to 14 in the workforce. Out of the child laborers engaged in the workforce, 83% are employed in rural areas and 70% are employed in urban areas. When does child become a child laborer? For children older than 10, any economic activity is considered a form of child labor. This includes work both inside and outside of the household settings. The main cause of child labor include poverty, unemployment problem, and the excess population. If the population increase, so the child is considered as the burden of the family. So more children, when the more children will be considered as the burden of the family, so children must have to go to the work for earning the bread. So among this, poverty is the primary cause of child labor. Poverty is widely recognized and acknowledged as the primary cause of child labor. Why? So in these circumstances, we can say the poor family's father and mother thinks that it would be beneficial for them if their children engage in any occupation or earn bread for their family. So for this reason, the parents are not show their interest to send their children in the school. The poor economic condition is the first and foremost reason for child labor in Bangladesh. It is not possible for the parents of a poor family to bear the cost of the children's education after arranging their food. As a result, the guardians of these children lost interest of sending their children to school. Besides, another one point, that is the employer also gets interest in engaging children in work, as it is lucrative for them to engage the child in work by spending less money and to exploit child labor for long hours than the adult. So the employer can give the much work and provide them the or give them the less money. Then poor parents consider cost of education of their children for 15 to 16 years. In the urban life, the dependence on the domestic servants for all domestic works is also liable for the quick increase of child labor. Here, the child labor is increasing day by day as a result of the indifferent attitudes of the parents also. And this urban life, we are sometimes dependent on the domestic servants, and the minute age girls and boys also involved in doing the domestic works. It is also the one reason for quick increase of the child labor. In the year 2006, Bangladesh passed a labor law setting the minimum legal age for employment as 14. Nevertheless, the enforcement of such labor laws is virtually impossible in Bangladesh because 93% of child laborers are employed in the informal sectors such as small factories and workshops, on the street, in home-based business and domestic employment. Despite the prevalence of child labor in Bangladesh, there has been an increase in legislation against child labor. Bangladesh has ratified the ILO. In addition, the country also ratified in even the Convention on the rights of the child. The constitutions of Bangladesh has recognized the fundamental rights of all citizens, including children also, and the constitutions on its parts, that is fundamental principles of state policy, has emphasized on taking steps for compulsory primary education for all the children and special measures for physically handicapped and mentally disabled children. The adolescent. The words come from the adolescent. To grow up is a transitional stage of physical and physiological development that generally occurs during the period of puberty to legal adulthood, age of majority. Adolescence is usually associated with the teenage years, so teenagers we say, but its physical, psychological or cultural expression may begin earlier and end later. According to Bangladesh Labour Act 2006, the minimum age of children and adolescent is ascertained 14 years. So, minimum children is ascertained 14 years and adolescent 14 to 18 years. So, what is telling here? The adolescent can be engaged in work only for if his employer at his own cost gets a fitness certificate of that adolescent from a registered physician. So, see, the adolescent must be physically perfect to do the work, and the normal working hour of an adolescent is ascertained 5 hours daily, but according to international law, that is labor law, that is 8 hours, but for this adolescent the time will be 5 hours. But he cannot be allowed to work from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. An adolescent cannot be allowed to do any risky or dangerous job. So, light works they can do. The United Nations Convention on Child Rights, what is telling follow? The Convention of 1989 by the United Nations has clearly cited its commitments on matters related to child labor. The convention has said that member states realizing their local situation must decide appropriate terms and conditions on the working hour, appointment, age of child labor, etc. So, it will depend on the states or country. In addition, this convention provides commitment to child security, compulsory primary education, etc. So, life security is main and primary education is mandatory, which indirectly will help eradicate child labor. Bangladesh has ratified or signed or give formal consent to, that is, this convention in the year 1990. So, dear learners, in order to stop child labor, the National Child Labor Prevention Policy 2010 has determined some specific goals, and it talks to taking some short-term and long-term strategic measures to prevent risky child labor from all institutional and non-institutional sectors and to eradicate all kinds of child labor. So, we should stop the child labor. Child is meant to learn, not to earn. Thank you all. Stay safe and blessed at your home.